Right. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, we were just a bit late starting. We're having some IT issues behind the scenes and just wanted to let everyone else kind of join to the call. We may as well get going. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but welcome. Thank you for joining us on a Monday after, or evening, I should say, to talk about the indoor upcoming season. Can't believe the summer has flown by and we're not even 2 weeks away from September, so it's a bit crazy. This evening, actually, Jacob, you switch to the next slide. We have a lot to go through in terms of the agenda with regards to club administration. All of this is, like you saw, recorded. We're going to put it up on the website, YouTube, link it, as well as we'll do an FAQ based on all the questions we get. So this evening we have some special guests. Sean Illingworth is with us. He's from our regional council, also Region 6 president / chair. He will be presenting the regional council survey that went out earlier this spring to all the club leaders to get feedback on our OVA services and so forth. So he'll be presenting on that, talking about some next steps. Carrie Campbell, our manager of indoor programs, will be talking about everything competitions and reminders and Ontario championships, club administrations and fees, and just a reminder of the staff that we have in the office that you guys can reach out to at any time. And then we'll pass it over to Jen and Joanne to talk about more of the safe sport and OSIC, eligibility policies, MRS stuff, screening, and insurance. And at any time, ask your questions in the chat box. If you could just remain muted, that would be appreciated. There are a lot of people on this call this evening. So with that, Sean, I will pass it over to you.
Super. You can still hear me okay? Yep.
All good.
Okay, one sec. Just going to share my screen. Okay, can somebody give me a thumbs up that you can actually see it? Awesome.
I can see it.
Yep. Thank you. So thanks everybody. Back in April, May, we conducted this research to, as Alicia mentioned, get a little bit of a richer understanding of some of the issues, some of the ways that the OVA can help support clubs in their operations. And so I'll dive right into this. So the top line objective of the research was to gain this initial understanding into the challenges and opportunities for the OVA to support club operations. Subtext, obviously OVA is committed to continuous growth and improvement and supporting its member clubs. And that mandate for growth can only happen through the club system. So in order to support growth in the volume and the quality of the programs, the OVA must first engage in listening and understanding and empathizing with the experiences of clubs across the province. So I was very adamant as we started this research activity to state that I felt like this should be, kind of small step number one towards a rich, mutually productive relationship with the club executives, and to start the process of engaging in active conversations about issues, perhaps while they're small, before they become big issues. I'm going to give a quick overview of the report in 10 minutes or less. There's a lot more detail behind the scenes that is available should anybody want to talk about any specific issues. But many of you would have seen this survey. It went out in April and May. It was an online survey, free form, intentionally free form, to allow club executives to speak openly to the issues that are most pertinent to them. It was targeted at club executives and technical directors. 3 big questions we wanted to ask, all around the season of play. How might the OVA better support your club operations as you prepare during the competitive season and as you close out the competitive season? Really quick, really easy to the point, open-ended to start the dialogue, right? So what did we learn? First of all, we received 50 responses, 29 from club presidents. So in the grand scheme of things, from a sampling perspective, it's actually pretty good. Obviously, it's not everybody, but you'll never get everybody, and statistically, this is representative of the member population. Across regions, again, good coverage across most of the regions in terms of who participated. And good representation across the different club sizes, right? From small clubs to the largest clubs and a whole bunch in the middle. So again, the three key questions that we asked in the survey. How might the OVA better support your operations as you prepared during the season and as you closed out the season? We also included a kind of a catch-all question at the end, any other comments or things that you want to raise. So really there were 4 categories of responses. What I did with the data was, again, these were all open-ended free-form responses. So went through all of the questions, read all of the responses, developed a scoring key to kind of categorize this as a comment about this type of activity, this is a comment about that type of activity, went back and recoded all of the comments according to the coding, and then ran the analysis. And so as you see on this slide, whether it's prepare, during, post, or other, there was a lot of commonality in the kinds of things that people were talking about. Whether it was before, during, after, or in that catch-all category, a lot of common issues raised. So what I then did was to make this presentation short and sweet, I mashed all that up and categorized how many times did somebody talk about X, whether they said it pre, during, post, or other. And here's where we got the overall comments. So the different categories of comments that people talked about: tryouts, tryout window, Team O, social media rules, re-signing, officials, MRS, interaction with clubs, hotels, travel. Special call out, there were quite a few congrats to the OVA staff about how operations are going, and we're really crappy at patting ourselves on the back a lot of times. So take the kudos here. Competitions, coaching certifications, club resources, all stars, and costs. So here are all the kinds of open-ended comments that categorized open-ended comments that participants responded with. I'm not going to talk about them all. I'm going to talk about the 4 biggest: rules, interaction with clubs, competitions, and club resources. That does not mean that all of the other ones are ignored. All of the information has been shared with the OVA executive, and they have asked me several questions about the information in the report. So all of the categories are here, but for brevity's purpose, I'll just talk about these 4. So what kinds of things were people saying when they made comments about competitions? Comments were constructive, comments were criticisms, and that's what you expect to see in qualitative research. Sometimes people will generate an idea, sometimes people will give a comment or a criticism. So I think, again, being open and understanding and empathizing, we need to hear these for what they are and address them, think about them, digest them, deal with them. Around competitions, 6-on-6 is a mess with U11 to U14 teams competing. Realignment of the season start would help, pushing the season start back until January as an idea. Getting rid of 9-on-3 for making it too long of a day. Non-seeding tournaments without medals. Not allowing teams to play outside of their age category for some performance and mental health reasons. Not assigning teams to tournaments geographically. Lower ranked teams play the same teams every tournament. They're willing to travel, right? Multi-day events, is a comment that was seen more than once. The season is too long, right? And it never ends. We need to do something about that. Never host a provincial championship in downtown Toronto again. There's very little positive to this mass collection of teams in the most congested city in Canada. Threw that then in there intentionally because the exact opposite. Really highlights there's two sides to every coin. Provincials in Toronto were well run. Love the atmosphere. So you really have to understand all of the different perspectives. Volleyball festivals was an idea that was presented, and considering something like open tournaments where teams of any age can participate. And similar to the comment earlier about the long season and realignment of the season start, finding a way to ease the conflict between school volleyball, club volleyball, and the high performance team of Ontario volleyball. So lots of ideas and comments there around what would help clubs with their operations with regards to competitions. Interactions with clubs. So heard this loud and clear. The clubs want more direct correspondence from the OVA, right down to specifically via email. I saw that several times. Communications targeted to club directors with upcoming information about the season and changes and important dates. Club presidents should get a one-on-one with an OVA executive each season to discuss what's going on. Sounds like mission impossible, but with I don't know, where are we at in clubs now, 80, 90 clubs, and a staff of how many? It's not a lot of calls to make. More availability over the phone, understanding the roles, who's in charge of what, with clear direction on who to contact when something happens, or when there's a change within the OVA organization. And the example that was provided was around insurance coverage. They didn't know who the contact was anymore. Some clarity around who's making decisions and who is the committee, and what are they talking about? What are they deciding? And obviously rules changes and trying to share that kind of information with the clubs directly. Club resources, another big category that had all kinds of comments in it. Things that people wanted to see in the club resources included lessons learned webinars, the ability to access the travel subsidy form electronically rather than having to kind of go and find it. Checklists, for example, wrapping up the season, how to complete financials and so on. Sample evaluation forms that clubs could use to give feedback to their athletes. Calendar of events, seasonal practice plan examples that clubs could use and leverage to help them with their internal capacity. Lineup sheets being provided to the teams at provincials. ANCA templates and sample constitutions. So all of the kind of the fundamental building blocks of a well-run organization. And then workshops and education for club management on best practices, with a nice kudo here to the OVA about the workshops that were run last year. So, big call out from membership club resources. Rules. Again, a pretty big category. Lots of call about evaluating and considering what needs to change with ECI, with the age groups and the mix of age and the ability for youngers to play older. There certainly were some comments that it was difficult for some of the clubs. Again, in contrast to one of the earlier comments about competitions where, seeding tournaments without that had no seeding impact, got the opposite here. Not having medals for the younger age groups at early tournaments is not okay. This is rep, and even house leaguers get medals, right? And so again, different perspectives on the problem. Getting rid of the fair play rule, trusting the clubs to play athletes fairly, disagreeing with allowing university athletes to participate in the OVA, and suggesting that it provides an advantage to clubs that are situated near universities, and even goes on to suggest that if the OVA is interested in those athletes, they can access them through TMO programming. And then again, one of our favorite topics is the ball, and the league adopting one standard ball across all ages. So, lots of comments there around rules. I said 4 I was going to talk about. I wanted to talk about 5 because there was something really interesting that I saw in the data. The top 2 categories there, tryouts and tryout window. When you think about pre, during, post, the only time tryout window is going to be relevant is during the pre, and it garnered a significant number of comments. So given it could only appear in one category of the responses, and it got so much response, I think it's meaningful and something that we need to address. And so, if I take the tryout window comment, the tryouts comment, and the re-sign comments and add them all together, all of a sudden it's the 4th place comment. So what were people saying about this particular issue? Again, lots of concern about the tryout process being rushed, and putting more pressure rather than alleviating pressure on athletes, parents, and coaches. Several comments about recruiting, and athletes being recruited to play for super teams or all-star teams, and all of that happening outside of the tryout window or the re-sign policy, and needing to talk about that. Opening up the tryout window and so that teams can be assembled in August and they can make their decisions on gym time accordingly based on what they have in terms of teams. The timing of the window isn't fair because some clubs don't have their gyms yet, so they don't even know what they can do. So need to look at maybe pushing it back, and then just removing the tryout window altogether. Right, is another comment. So lots of comments around that kind of constellation of tryouts, tryout window, and re-signing. So last slide. What does this mean, and what did I take away from it as I read through all of the comments? So I saw some major themes. Obviously, major theme number 1: competitions are a really big deal. So I ask the question, what is best in class? What's best in class nationally, internationally? What are the best possible competitive situations that we can provide? The second one around club resources is, as I read through the comments, I realized that a lot of these club resources exist, and they are there. They're just really hard to find. And so, is this a website fix, right? Interactions with the clubs. Clearly, social media and the website is not sufficient. And I equate those to broadcast messaging. Club executives want unicast. They want to have that connection directly with OVA executive. Some minor themes underneath that. I think it's worth reviewing the impact of the tryout window. Again, looking at it from the perspective of solving a problem. What problem is it trying to solve, and how is it doing? It was created to do something. How is it doing? Same thing with ECI. What problem was it intended to solve? How is it doing? Adjust accordingly. Discuss the recruiting and the tryout window issue openly. There was also enough comments to make to raise it around the TMO High Performance Center participation during the season of play, and there were enough comments there to consider it a minor theme that executives wanted to move that outside of the season of play. Next steps that I recommended for this, obviously this is step 1, sharing the summary of the information with club executives. Again, what I heard in the survey was that they want interaction. They don't just want to be giving information. So, sharing information back once we learn something. Going through all of the comments and areas of where people have suggested perhaps some new ideas, identifying what you can fix it, communicate it, and measure its impact. It's okay to get things wrong as long as you're measuring and improving, right? And then keeping this active inquiry going, and not letting this be a one-shot event. So there you go. There's a quick summary, and sorry, that was more than 10 minutes.
All good. Thanks so much,
Joanne.
Yeah, we're going to pass it over to Joanne. Jacob, if you can bring your screen back up, that would be great.
Yeah, well, they're bringing that back up. Thank you, Sean, and our regional council for working on this survey, and that we're going to keep it rolling and keep diving into the survey results and continuing to make some changes from it. So we wanted to highlight some of those next steps from the survey. And so some of it comes from those major 4 points that Sean brought up with the competitions, club resources, interactions with you, our clubs, and our rules. So with our interaction directly, we're looking at not only the information that we put out, but making sure that it goes to you first directly before it gets posted to the website. So you have that information at your fingertips in your emails. And then the other pieces is that Sean talked about the club resources. So if you now go to the OVA website, Alicia and the team has already been working on building up those club resources and collecting them. A lot of them were spread out throughout the website, and now putting it under the one club resources area. So you will see that there. And this is where we really want to hear from you about what other information would you like posted. We have a whole ton of information on our website, or even within our staff that's not necessarily on the website, that we would like to know your priority of what to get on there. We obviously have limited resources, and they are feverishly working to put that resource tab together. But that's the part where if we know some of your priorities and what some of your pressing needs are, we can address those first. So definitely let us know what you're looking for in that club resources, if it's not there already, what's upcoming. The competitions team is going to release a recap of this club administration presentation and what's happening for this upcoming season. These slide decks and future town halls will also be posted under that club resource section, which leads me to, I'm going to jump down to the upcoming town hall sessions. We have started to put together some topics on a monthly basis, except for next week because we'll be MRS, but September, October, November, we'll start looking at some topics to help with your pressing needs, but also where can we help with some of the club operations and the club, providing the club resources. So the next one after the MRS updates next week will be the Monday, September 25th, talking about some club resources and policy development. And then we are looking for, as we said, what the next topics for October and November. Also to do with the survey, the team is putting together, there's some really quick hits that we can provide the responses to, and some answers or comments or next steps. And they're going to post those results. Our goal is by September 15th. Again, that will be found on your club resource section. And that will really give a lot of information from the survey that was just done. And as Sean said, we really want to continue with the survey and this feedback, and really creating this opportunity of how the OVA and our staff can help the clubs operate. What are your needs? How can we make it easier for you? So with that, one last piece of the next steps would be our communications. So we talked about doing direct email blasts to the club leaders prior, continuing with the town hall sessions, our website. The team has put together a seasonal plan checklist for club administrators. And also we are currently doing calls for 2 subcommittees, the Indoor Volleyball Development Committee and our regional coaching development subcommittee. So if you're interested in those, please look to submitting your application. And some of that comes from some of the questions and the feedback that we had in the survey. That's where those committees will be addressing some of those topics. So that is thank you from the Regional Council and Sean again. And if you have any questions, let me know. If not, we're going to go on to competition reminders, which I believe is Carrie.
Okay, everybody. September is just around the corner, so we're just going to go over some stuff that was sent out in the What's New that was posted earlier in the summer. So obviously, welcome back. Another indoor season, and we're looking forward to it. So let's get things going. So a reminder, soft uniform policy for all Event 1 for all age divisions. So those details can be found in our youth competition manual, which will be posted this week on what goes into the soft uniform policy. There's just, broadening of numbers, a little bit of flexibility with sizing of numbers and things like that. So soft uniform policy for Event 1. All of our registration dates are 6 weeks prior for regular season events. That allows Jacob and Mark to split all their teams and get everybody sorted. So please remember that. All our deadlines will be posted in a checklist that will be going out to you guys shortly. The youth competition calendar, What's New, was posted on June 15th, and the indoor competition manual and the early contact initiative manual are actually now available. There you go. Available on your club resources page. That's on the website. It's linked on this slide deck that will be posted. And if you're interested in hosting this year, September 7th is when your bids are due. If you have any questions about hosting, contact Mark. Mark and Jacob will be sorting through all those, and they'll be the best people. Mark and Jacob actually would probably be the best people to answer your questions if you do have any questions. On your club resources page, there is a hosting tab, and that hosting tab will give you a lot of documents that you will need in regards to hosting and kind of figuring out what goes into it and things like that. And again, hosting, any questions, Jacob or Mark are there for you. Convention center events are state of play events for teams that are traveling 125 kilometers and over. And it's only for the teams that are playing the 2-day events. So if you are on a Friday and you are playing 9-on-3, you are not required to stay to play. It's only the teams that are playing in the 2-day events. And again, all those teams are outlined in the What's New that's posted in your club resources page. So have a look there. That'll indicate which teams may be affected by this. It is not the whole age division. It's simply the teams that are stated in the outline under the What's New in your club resources page. Okay, Jacob, please. So our convention center events. So we will be at EY Center again in November. And then it'll be only 156 of the 16U and 18U teams will be scheduled for either 1 or 2-day events between those 3 days. It's a great question. I just saw it pop up. A 9-on-3 is your tournament format. So we look at it as 9 teams on 3 courts. So that's a standard schedule that we do use in youth competitions. So when we reference a 9-on-3, that's just your size of your tournament, 9 teams. It's a number of courts, and that's usually 7 rounds of competition, 3 pool play and 4 playoff rounds. You're welcome. And then Niagara Falls will be our second round of convention center events, and this will be for the 15U girls TLS boys, and 18U teams. And again, they'll be scheduled for either 1-day or 2-day tournaments between February 9th and 11th. So those are only specific teams. They're better outlined in the youth in both, in the youth competition manual and in the What's New that's posted, again, clubs resources. So again, pay close attention to the posted teams, because they will be made available, and your age group may be playing some at EY, some at Niagara Falls, and some at local high schools and things like that. So that's the lowdown on the convention center events. And our Ontario Championship reminders. So we are running 6 different events over the month of April. We are in 2 different cities. We are in Waterloo and Ottawa. Our event dates are posted here along with our venue, and also what age divisions will be playing at each location and their dates. So again, this is posted also on the website. So it's readily available for that. And just some reminders about the Ontario Championships this year. Teams are permitted to play in multiple Ontario Championships, provided they are not playing 6 days straight. And that goes for the individual athlete as well. If they're jumping up an age category or what have you, or filling in, you can't play 6 days straight. Registration for all events open on December 13th. For playing up is going to be a bit tricky this year. So that's also posted in the What's New, simply because we are extremely tight on our spots available. So registration will open on January 10th for all age divisions for playing up. So we'll be sending out more information on that and kind of reminding people on the process throughout the season. But mark your calendars for the playing up if you have a team that would like to. And athletes can only be listed on 1 roster per event. That's obviously, you can't be playing in 2 different tournaments over the span of a 6-day and things like that. State of play booking dates are online. Hotel previews will be available starting November. So, and that can be found on our Ontario Championships section of the website. And then we are working on a travel rebate policy, a little updated version from what we have done in the past. So we're just working right now with in staff and also with our regional presidents to kind of look at what works best and how to make that work best for everybody. So stay tuned for the travel rebate policy for the Ontario Championships.
And sorry, Kira, can I jump in really quickly? Yeah. Sorry, we have a typo here, guys, and we'll make sure we fix this before it gets posted. So registration is December 13th. It opens for everyone, including the playing up teams. The deadline is January 10th. So we will clarify this in the presentation before we post it. So there you go.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, next. Okay, here's the checklist that we were referencing a little bit earlier and what we hope will be a good tool for everybody moving forward. It's going to go to club leaders that are registered in MRS. It's going to have a different kind of categories within the checklist, which is general admission, tryout window, dates and deadlines, registration deadlines, award deadlines, and Ontario Championships deadlines. So we're hoping that this document is going to be really easy for you to follow, maybe help you mark your calendars, and it kind of be like just a easy, quick reference for the season. It'll be posted on the club resources page as well as emailed out. If you don't get it, email me and I'll be happy to get it to you or figure out why you're not getting it. So yeah, just let me know and then we will make sure that you get it. No problem. Okay, next. And fees. So here are our fees for next year. Obviously, just a reminder, tryout players have to register before attending any tryouts or going in the gym. That's a zero cost to them. We just need to make sure that they're signing off on their waivers before they participate in a tryout. There will be no change for the recreational player fee. So that's for the 4v4 athletes only. So if you have a 4v4 athlete that will be playing 6v6, they will need to be a competitive member. And as outlined in our membership policy and was announced last year, we do have a membership raise to $55, and VCs will go up again this year. So both the competitive player, so that's 6v6 volleyball, all the way up to any 19U player, will be paying the $97.15. Club contacts, any club fee, club staff, team staff, coaches will be paying that $97.15 as well. And then the returning club fee is the $350, no change in that. So those totals there are with taxes on the end of that chart. And just to, okay, yep. And then, yep, no, it's okay. You can go forward. I believe we're going to touch on a lot of these points on the next slide too. So thanks, Jacob. Sorry, good job. So athletes will be required to register as members in MRS in one of the following categories. That same as what we had last year, but this is relatively new for us. So tryouts, they're going to be at a tryout level player. And then brand new members not currently in MRS. I don't know if Jen wants to talk to this to make that a little clearer for everybody, or...
It's just if anyone's attending an open gym or anything where they'll be participating with the club and they're not a current member of MRS, you need to register as a tryout player. They have to be registered members. But then as of September 1st, everyone gets wiped to inactive again, and everyone will have to re-register in one of those. But if someone's attending an open gym for the next season, or anything like that, and are already members from the past competitive season, they're fine to do that until September 1st. And once again, everything gets put back to inactive. And September 1st onward, everyone will have to re-register.
Right. And so as soon as September 1 goes about and we get the thumbs up to start registering, you can start registering your re-signed athletes and getting your re-signed athletes to register on MRS and adding them to your clubs and teams. And just a reminder that everybody needs to be registered in the new season before they participate in any type of activity. So it's just making sure we get caught up on all our insurance and making sure that we have waivers and everything signed for everybody. So before you really start your club activities, please make sure everybody is registered in MRS. And if you're in an OVA competitive event, you need the two roles. Athletes need the two roles membership level, a competitive player or a recreational player, only for the 4v4. So that's that. And playing with an ineligible player or a coach during an OVA event does have some consequences. Obviously, you may have to forfeit. We'd have to obviously look into it, but please make sure that you do this. It's super, super, super duper important. And we just want to make sure everybody's playing safe and everybody is, thumbs up on the safe sport and screened and all that other important stuff that goes along with running sports in Ontario. So next. These are tournament fees. They will be they'll be posted in our youth competition manual. Just to give you a heads up of what they are. They are pending board approval. So all the fees are plus HST as well. And we have 2-day events for the asterisks. So that would be just the 4v4 Ontario Championships and the 3 days for the other two. And we both know that the Fall Classic for those teams that will be participating in that. That fee is up there as well, and our Grand Prix and our Grand Prix qualifier. So those are multi-day events for those tournaments. So, and just that travel subsidy that I had mentioned earlier that we are working on, just to let you know that $100 of your fee does go into that pot for the travel subsidy. So that gets distributed to the clubs at the end of the season. So so Corinne just asked a question. So I'm just going to say, can individuals register on MRS now before September 1st, or does the program prevent registration up until September 1st? If you are registering to be in an open gym, or if you're registering to be a coach, and yes, you can register now. But if you are registering for the next season for 23-24, don't register now. Register after September 1st. All OVA memberships are year memberships, and they go from September 1st to August 31st. So, and because of that, our whole system kind of does a dump, and then everybody gets put to inactive, and then you have to re-register for the new season. Yeah, so just to put some faces and names and kind of go over what people you need to contact if you have any questions. So Mylene is taking over for Sherry Bennett. I'm sure lots of you remember Sherry. So she will be responsible for insurance, assisting with MRS, event sanctioning, and any other general membership questions. So she's the lady you speak to. And Jacob is one of our indoor competitions masterminds. So he does our younger age divisions. He goes from 4v4 all the way up to 15U boys and girls. So if you have any questions regarding your seating, your ranking, anything within your regular season, tournament locations, hosting, rules, anything along that line, Jacob's your guy. Jacob is on our call today. And then our competitions lead, our other mastermind, Mr. Mark Weiersma, he does our 16U boys and girls all the way up to our 18U boys and girls. And for this, you'd contact him for the same reason. Anything to do with that age division, tournaments, seating, schedules, rule questions, concerns regarding anything that happened during your event. So it really helps if you are a 16U player, to a 16U coach, or that's where your concern is, you contact Mark. 14U TLS, you would contact Jacob. So those are our youth competition coordinators. You can contact me for probably not some of the nitty gritty that goes into the decision making on where teams go, but you can contact me for tryout window, general comments or concerns, anything Ontario championships, anything to do with club administration, questions, things like that. Major events, the Fall Classic, the Convention Center events, things like that. I'm happy to help out on. You can also, try to throw something at me. I've been here for, oh God, way too long now, so I know a few things. Calvin Chang is our operations lead. He is the gentleman you would contact for coaching certification, different questions regarding coaching clinics, screening, anything officials as well, or referees, referee certification, assigning, things like that. So Calvin is coaching and referees. And then we have new to the team, well, not too new, as you know, but the first start to the season for Jessie. She's our operations coordinator. She's also Calvin's support. So she will be doing a lot of the coaching, certification checks, kind of working through MRS and, figuring out who's eligible, who's not eligible. Also support for the referees. She's the lady to contact if you have any problems with respect in sport. If you can't find your number or you don't know where to put it on your profile, anything like that, Jesse can help. And also club support. So if you have any issues with anything, trying to get your roster verified, things like that. When it comes to OCs, we're there to help. So those are the faces of a lot of people you'll be communicating with this season. So reach out, and if you have any of those questions, and we'll be happy to help. Okay, and then we have our communication staff. Now, these guys work super hard, guys. They are our social media people. They're writing our story. They're our help on the website. Dylan Brennan is our, oh my God, he does everything. He helps with our communications. He does a lot of our digital material, digital content. He does our video creation. He is a good dude, and he's somebody to talk to if you have any questions regarding website or postings and stories or interest stories or anything like that. He's a guy to talk to. And then George works closely as a coordinator with Dylan, helping write stories and getting different emails sent out. And Karish is helps out with our marketing of our sport. He also does a lot of our communication stuff. He designs all our medal ribbons. He's pretty talented dude. We're happy to have him too. And he also does our grassroots stuff. Let's not forget about our grassroots. So he helps out with our spikes, our smash ball programs, parent and player, all that stuff. And he also works really closely with our inclusion committee and community outreach. A lot of digital content comes from Karish as well. So this is our communication staff. So any issues, social media, website postings, things along that line, these are the fellas that you should reach out to. And here's our senior management. So these are our wonderful people that help all of us staff, reach our goals and guide the organization. Jennifer Harkness is our director of finance and administration, and she also deals with complaints. Jen is super awesome to work with as well. LP Mainville, he is our athlete development director. Team Ontario, our camps, summer camps, some of our other athlete development programs. He's the gentleman to talk to. Alicia, our Lidums, our youth competitions fearless leader. She's directs us in all of our volleyball events and provide, she's kind of just the overseer for all volleyball operations within the OVA. And our fearless leader, Joanne Lubachek. So she's I said that wrong, Lubachich. Sorry, Joanne. Yeah, she's our leader. So any big questions, governance, our board of directors, policies, anything like that, Joanne would be the lady to reach out to. And yeah, that's it for me. So thank you for listening. Here's to a good indoor season, or the start of. And now I'm going to pass you off to Jen.
Thank you, Carrie. Great job. So I am going to deal with the very complex and critical topic of safe sport. So very recently, this happened about a year ago, but it's been such a work in progress that it's only now that we're kind of figuring out the process and procedures with respect to this whole thing with the Sport Integrity Commissioner. So as of June 2022, Volleyball Canada and Ontario Volleyball signed on with the Office of the Sport Integrity Commissioner. So you'll hear us say OSIC a lot. So that is the acronym that you need to remember. OSIC basically has set up an abuse-free sport program where they have a complaint management process that manages complaints with respect to maltreatment and sport abuse for a whole number of sporting associations across Canada, mostly national organizations, but Volleyball Canada did sign on with the OVA and other provinces as members as well. And the clubs also have access to the services of OSIC. So because we are signatories of OSIC, we have certain requirements and mandates. We are mandated to report any allegation of maltreatment or other prohibited behavior directly to OSIC. This is not an option. This is something we are obligated legally to do. So if you're wondering what an allegation of maltreatment or other prohibited behavior is, what governs behavior and violations of behavior is a universal code of conduct to prevent and address maltreatment in sport. So UCCMS is another acronym that you'll start to hear a lot. So the UCCMS is basically the code of conduct that OSIC uses as their Bible. So if you get any allegation that alleges a violation of one of the prohibited behaviors in the UCCMS, you have to report it directly to OSIC. If you do not know how to do that, or you want some help, I've done this a lot of times, so feel free to reach out to me directly. Or if you have any concerns or questions about whether it should be a matter that's referred to OSIC or not, feel free to call me. So once a complaint goes into OSIC, or a report goes into OSIC, they'll be addressed according to the policies and procedures of the Sport Integrity Commissioner. So they have a whole complaint process that they go through. They will do the investigation. They will do all of the responses and dialogues with the complainant, the respondent. They will come to a decision. And then they also will maintain a sport registry that is kind of cross-Canada registry of violations. That is posted publicly. So because of some of these new obligations, we also have had to add a new attestation in MRS when you register. So when you register as a member, every member is going to see this. Normally you have, I sign off on the waiver, I agree to follow policies, I've done my concussion review. There's a new attestation that says, I understand that I am a participant defined by OSIC, that I am under the, I am obligated to follow the UCCMS. I have reviewed a copy of the UCCMS, and I understand that OSIC will have the ability to investigate complaints against me, or that I can use the services of OSIC. So that will be in there, and we will also post as part of that attestation and that waiver process in MRS a copy of the UCCMS for people to review. Okay, next. Whoever's in charge. Thank you. So because of being a signatory with OSIC, VC has put down some new requirements as well. So in order to be fully compliant with the Universal Code of Conduct and insurance, VC now requires that all persons in authority be fully compliant with safe sport requirements before their membership is approved. So we basically have been mandated by Volleyball Canada, and we don't disagree with the practice, that we cannot let anyone be a member an active member of our association until we have verified that their safe sport requirements have been completed. So a person in authority, there's definitions on a lot of our policies, but basically anyone in a position of authority or trust, which includes club executives, includes club contacts, because they have all the contact information of all the athletes and members of the club. All must be compliant with safe sport requirements before we're allowed to prove their membership. It also means they're not allowed to participate in volleyball activities until they've met their safe sport requirements. So that means that persons in authority cannot be involved in practices, camps, games, meetings until they've completed their person in authority requirements. So this is going to be a big change for the 2023-24 season. When you purchase a membership, if you are choosing a membership category that is considered a person in authority category, which means club executive, coach, trainer, club contact, official, You will go into a pending status automatically. We will review, and we'll have someone basically dedicated pretty much full time to doing this at the beginning, throughout September. We will review to see if you've completed your safe sport requirements, and then you'll be moved to approved. So this is going to be a big deal for us. What we're going to try and do is we have a lot of history and tracking that we've done for all the coaches. So we know what coaches have completed all of their eligibility requirements. So we will upload those to automatically tick off what requirements they've completed, so we don't have to go check. Basically, all we'll have to do is take a look and move it to pending, or move it to approved. But I'm going to send out an email in the next, by the end of the week, to any club contact or club executive who is not already a coach that has completed their safe sport requirements, and give them some instructions on what they need to complete. Because come September 1st, you will not be allowed to join as a member in MRS unless those are completed. So this is really, really critical, and it may seem last minute, but we've just had some of this handed down from Volleyball Canada recently, and once again, we're in the process of continually getting updated from OSIC and what their requirements are. So we are frantically trying to get everyone out there to complete the requirements so that we can move them to approved status in MRS. So if you go to the next page, on that line, just to make it clearer to club leaders what they need to do for their safe sport requirements, we have created a new club leader eligibility policy. So these requirements were always in place. They were part of our screening policy, so anyone in a position of authority had to do these. They were part of our membership policy, but we want to make it very obvious and clear to the club leaders that they are subject to the below requirements. So anyone who is a club administrator, all levels of club contact, need to be to follow the below. So they need to abide by the screening policy, which means we need a criminal record check. You will do the screening disclosure form when you register in MRS, and you will do the Rowan's Law requirements when you register in MRS, but you must also complete making headway, making ethical decisions, safe sport training, and call it out training, which is Ontario human rights training. Unfortunately, this is not an option. These are what is required by OSIC, by Volleyball Canada, by the OVA, so that club leaders who have this massive responsibility for the coaches, athletes, everyone else in their club, have been trained in safe sport areas. Basically, once again, you cannot be added to the club information form or to MRS if you have not completed these requirements. Okay, next.
Jen, really quick question. So this will need to be approved prior to coaches taking part in tryouts, and you can't register until September 1st in MRS. How long do you think it will take to approve all the coaches in Ontario?
It's going to be done. It's going to be done that day.
Yeah, and the good thing is too, opens September 1st, but tryouts don't begin until the 8th. So there is that week period as well for the staff to do all that
but
stuff.
That's why, but basically we're going to have someone on it. If it's got, we have an individual who will be responsible for it, but if I need to join and anyone else needs to join, we'll basically be monitoring the pending all day, every day, to make sure that as soon as someone goes into pending, if they have completed their requirements and we have records of that, then we will clear them right away. If they have completed the requirements and we have to search for them, i.e. if they weren't a coach last year and we still have to go in the locker and check and see what they've done, we'll still do it same day, but at least we'll be able to bang through those ones who were coaches last year really, really quickly, because we'll have all the information already loaded into MRS. Does that answer your question? I think. Something else that is new, once again, because of all of these requirements and because that we need to know that club executives and staff have completed all these requirements, when the club contact or the club executives are filling out the returning club form, you cannot be added to the returning club form unless you're a member. So historically, that form has been kind of a free form. Type in, here's my club president, so-and-so, here's their contacts. Yeah, I've looked at their screening disclosure form. Now there'll be a search option to add a club executive. You'll have to search the membership, find your club executive, add them to the form, but you will not see them if they are not registered in MRS, so you will not be able to add them to the form. So the other thing on the club information form that I just want to clarify, we've had instances where there's attestations at the bottom that say, as a representative of the club, that I attest that we will follow policy, all of these things. We've had instances where club contacts will sign the president's name there, or someone else's name. These attestations are very important. And so the person who is completing the club form should be the person to sign the attestations, because they're the one in there doing it, saying yes, yes. And then if the club executive, so if the club president is not the person filling out the form, we will be requiring further attestations to be signed by each club executive. We're still in the process of deciding what that document looks like, but it'll essentially be, as club president, as a director or executive of the club, I attest that I will follow screening policy. I will follow OVA membership policies, safe sport policies, those types of things, just to attest that as a club executive, you will be following those policies, because of the fact that it's often the club contact who is filling out this form. We need the executive to attest that they will be doing that and they will be following policy, because stuff is getting sticky and tricky, and we need all our T's crossed and our I's dotted right now. There's a lot of requirements, and once again, they're coming from everywhere, and these are the changes that we're obligated to make in order to allow people to participate in our association and to allow our association to be insured and a member of Volleyball Canada. There'll be more info in the Club Admin Town Hall 2 in terms of the changes in MRS. So make sure, if you're not a club contact, that your club contacts do attend that meeting, because we will talk about the same thing, the changes in MRS in terms of adding coaches and pending status, etc. Okay, that's me.
Thank you, Jen, for the serious but important message. And I'm going to hammer it home a bit more. Not because I want to belabor it, I just want to make sure that there's the understanding from what Jen's going through. These are the requirements that, and the processes, the procedures we've had to put in place to be part of Volleyball Canada, which also is the requirement for the OVA to have insurance. So in order for us to have that insurance, that then passes over to our clubs. So you then have your club directors, your club executive, you have insurance under these situations. So that's very important. That is that gets into a very different risk portfolio that I would never want to get myself into. So following these steps, if you have any questions, if you have anything that you can't get through, contact us, and especially join that town hall next week of how MRS will work and flow through it. Because if you have these documents, if there is something that happens in your club, you will have insurance. So that is our message. Please ask us any questions that you have. So they're continuing on with some eligibility policy. I'm doing this one right. Oakland is, we're good? Okay, I will continue. And if we have questions, we have Oakland here to also support in any questions. So continuing on with our eligibility policies, as Jen said, these were requirements before, but we just wanted to make sure that we put it in one document. So if you're registering for a role, you can see I need to do check, check, check. So with the coach eligibility, there is a change this year, not in what needs to be done, but who needs to do it. So now this is all coaching rules, head coaches and assistant coaches. They have the same requirements. So that is one of the changes that we needed to make. And as it says here, we're focusing on our safe and responsible coaching. These coaches are accessible. The foundations that is required for the assistant coaches now is an online course. For Volleyball Canada Nationals, please follow up with Volleyball Canada and their website, and our team also can help you share it, or if you can't find the information, They have different requirements in order to participate at nationals. The OVA uses this eligibility policy. We do not go to the certification levels with different ages. That is if you are participating in nationals. So if your team is not going to nationals, don't worry about it. But if you are, please make sure that you do know what those requirements are. So I just want to stress again, the change for the coach eligibility policy is that both head coaches and assistant coaches must meet the requirements of the eligibility, which includes foundations. We can, and there is a 4v4 modification. So your team splits, you do need to make sure you have a coach role on each bench. I just wanted to add this in as far as the screening reminder. If you do need the My Back Check, the link is here. It's an online course, online service. But if you already have your paper copy or anything else, you're not required to now only go to this online tool, but it is here in order to meet this requirement for the police background checks. Next slide, Jacob, is, I believe, what do we got next? My policy update. Okay. The policy update is actually exactly what Jen shared with us. We now have OSIC in the UCCMS. I don't even have to describe the acronyms for you anymore. So the UCCMS is now part of our required policy, procedure, whatever you want to call it, in those. So those had to be incorporated into our current policies. So within Volleyball Canada has a pan-Canadian policy, which is our discipline and complaints, they call it abuse, we call it person in authority, our code of conduct, our diversity, equity, inclusion policy. Those are all pan-Canadian policies. So every province, territory across Canada uses that same template. And then if there's a modification that you need for your province, you add it in. So all of these were updated to incorporate that mandatory OSIC reporting and the UCCMS. So we just had to make sure we expanded it. They're documents that they're all online. If you have any questions with them, please feel free to contact me. But all of those policies were updated over this year and within February, March, June. So that's something to keep in mind. And the key piece of that is that mandatory reporting to OSIC. Again, the social media policy was updated. It is, again, includes UCCMS, subject to the discipline and compliance policy, which ties back to the UCCMS. So that's another piece there. And then on an ongoing basis, we do update policies. So the confidentiality and the conflict of interest policy were updated, not with major changes, except we separated the documents. We had them all mashed into one. And it's a little clearer now as they're two separate documents. And so the confidentiality policy has an attached appendix. So if you are involved in any of our elected or appointed positions within our association, an employee or contractor, you sign that confidentiality piece and accept that obligation of confidentiality, not to disclose information. And the conflict of interest document is for decision makers within our organization that you declare your conflicts. If there is any violations to be reported, you would report it to the ethics committee. And again, these policies, I have them in Word documents. If you need templates that you would like to modify for your own club, send me an email. And I just wanted to add one more piece that Volleyball Canada added with the policy piece. They expanded and did a new rule of two graphic, which is the one here on the right with the open and observable spaces. It gives you some more guidelines around that. And then they did a 3-page document on open and observable spaces using and how to follow the rule of two. So we have those on our website. They're on Volleyball Canada's website as well. And so feel free to have a read through them and let us know if you have any questions. The next slide with insurance. as I know we want to get to a few questions. This is just, there was a question already in some of the chat about getting your certificates of insurance. Contact Mulaney. She will get it out to you and it's ready to go. So questions for insurance, you can email the info at, you can info Mulaney, you can info Jen Harkness. So hit us with the questions.
We've actually answered them all as we've gone through, unless there's more questions to answer. With that said, we normally with the town hall sessions, we will take all of the chat questions and turn it into an FAQ question and answer and post it on the club resources section as well. Because there is so much information, we will let all club contacts and executives know when the video is posted, when the FAQ is up, and then PowerPoint deck is there as well. Just for your reference, that will be sent out. And as Carrie mentioned earlier, the club admin checklist will be going out, and we're also doing a kind of a what's new administration. We wanted to wait for tonight to be over just to see what kind of questions we had to add to that if anything is missing. That will also be going out this week, so stay tuned. Please check your emails directly from OVA. There is a lot of this information coming to you this week, so if there's no more questions.
Well, while they're thinking if there's any more questions, I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to an exciting new season. The staff have worked super hard planning and addressing all these changes that are coming down in the landscape of sport now, with addressing safe sport. So it is some changes, but it's something that working together we know we can get through, and just make sure that we keep it all safe for our athletes to have a good season. And
definitely.
Thank you.
And sorry, 2 quick questions just popped in here at the end. Jen, in terms of MRS, the clubs, can they do multiple tournament registrations at once? No, it's still the single
yeah, we have to
tournament
wait
registration.
yeah.
Okay. It's on Jen's to-do list. Sorry, I thought there was one more that popped up, but my screen keeps jumping between all these questions. I think there was a question regarding poaching of athletes and tryout window violations. Make sure you email things to Carrie Campbell. We need proof in writing, screenshots, so forth. Anything that comes across her desk is followed up on. We have dealt with clubs over this period, so please send it through with screenshots and all that fun stuff, and then it can be dealt with. And I believe those are the last 2-minute questions. Yes. All right. Thank you. Sorry, everyone. We went a bit over our allotted time, but there was a lot of information. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out this evening and talk about the upcoming administrative changes. Like we said, there is a lot coming down. And we appreciate all that you do and keeping up to speed with all of this stuff. So thank you. Have a good evening. And hopefully we see you next Monday as well for MRS stuff.